All right, and we are live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 16 of Narrations and Lamentations with Mittierim and the boys. I am Mittierim, and with me, as always, are the boys, Skip and Michael. And our special guest for tonight is Mr. William Page, coming on as our Dark Elf expert.
Hello.
So, William, if you would like to introduce yourself to the folks who subscribe to the channel who may not know you.
All right. My name is William Page. I live in Hawaii. I play Warhammer Fantasy. I have two armies right now. I've been playing Dark Elves the whole of 8th edition, and I started a Chaos army, which I'm going to make Chaos Legions, but it's like a mixture of some demons and some warriors.
Well, awesome. Welcome, and thank you for coming on and helping us chat about the Dark Elves tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll go ahead and get started with what everybody is doing in the hobby this week. So, William, as our guest, why don't you go ahead and tell us what's on your table?
Well, I'm trying to paint up flamers mostly. I just found out today that there's something called the Exalted Flamer, so I might buy that chariot and then run one on a base by itself.
That's cool. I think I saw the rules of that. I'm actually getting some flamers for Christmas for my demon army. I haven't played any of them yet. So, have you tested them out, or are you just working on painting them before they hit the board?
Yeah, I'm just painting them. I'm gonna use them regardless. My army is it's called the Pyre Legion, so it's very fire based, and so they have fire coming out of them. So I'm gonna use them.
All right. So, Skip, what's on your table this week?
Doors, and more doors.
Awesome. Have you finished your first unit of the Dwarf Warriors?
I have 2 more to go.
Awesome.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. And
Then
Michael?
I'm moving on to the Slayers.
Okay.
I'm working on Silverhound right now.
Awesome. Well, I have had a very uneventful week. My wife and kids are down visiting family for the week after Thanksgiving, so I have painted anything that doesn't move fast enough. I've gotten just a ridiculous. I did a unit of Pistoliers. I did probably the best single model I've ever done in the Chaos Lord on a disc, the old metal model, which was a pain in the butt to assemble. And then just today, even after work, I managed to get 3 Skull Crushers done. I modded a BSB for my Chaos and finished up a Demon Prince. So I'm burning through plastic like it's going out of style. So, awesome. Just to let everyone know, in case you haven't been paying attention, tonight's topic is Dark Elves. So as always, we're going to go through our panelists and rate Dark Elves in terms of mechanics, fluff, and fun on 1 to 10, 10 being the best. And as always, we try and have 2 people who play the army and 2 people who don't on our show with us. So for tonight, William Page obviously is a Dark Elf player. Skip also plays the Dark Elves, although somewhat less successfully than William does. So, and Michael and I will be the voice of the Dark Elves victims for the show. So, William, if you would like to go ahead and give us your ratings and a little understanding behind them, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Well, okay. Well, so the first thing we should get out of the way is I'm not a very competitive player. I've only played in 1 tournament in all of 8th edition, so I don't have the accolades to put forth to say, hey, I know everything. But in my humble position, I do think that Dark Elves is probably the most flexible army book that's available in the Warhammer list of books. So I think it is probably one of the best, if not the best. So
Okay.
I'd rank it a 9 or a 10, depending on if you really think it's the best.
All right. And in terms of fluff?
Fluff? It doesn't make this new book that came out, The End Times King, has really expanded on my vision of what Dark Elves are. But previous to this book, I felt like they were kind of silly. They're very Machiavellian, very Darwinian, and I don't think a society like that could even exist. So, but it is fantasy, so whatever.
Right. So your number rating?
Fluff-wise, Probably a 4.
Okay. And in terms of fun to play,
Oh, I love it. As long, I mean, it gives me. It's so flexible. I can change things up all the time, and that's why I would rank it so high. So I'd definitely rank it like a 9.
okay, awesome. All right, Michael, why don't you go ahead and take the first victim position and give us your ratings?
Okay. Well, with mechanic wise, the army works as a glass cannon. Um, you can with the tourney lists that have witch elves out the yin yang of every hole that you can fit them on. Um, it works to just a terrifyingly good degree. I mean, Skip's used a witch elf brick one time with the Shadow Magica Occam's Mind Razor. There's nothing that's going to stand against that. That many rerolls to hit and to wound at like strength 7 or 8 or 9 or something like that, they will eat any unit. It does not matter what it is. So mechanic wise, they are beautiful. I'd give them a 9 mechanically. They Games Workshop knows what they're doing with elves.
Hmm.
Fluff wise, having read about half of the new Kane books, I have to give them a solid 8 because I've been enjoying it about as much as you said I would, Josh.
I called it.
It's a good read. Having not read the fullness of the actual Dark Elf book, I just want to assume it's as good as that. But I'll leave that to Skip, and because he's a little more knowledgeable on the fluff on Dark Elves than I am.
Okay.
So fun wise is a split decision. If I'm playing Skip, it's fun. He doesn't often bring a gigantic brick of witch elves with Hellebron sitting in it to just eat whatever I've got on the board. But he does bring solid units from the Dark Elf, so it's fun and challenging to play. So with him, I'd give, and easily it's a 9 to play. Against a tournament list, it's a flat 1. It's not fun. You don't have anything to take care of what gets put on the board, and you just feel miserable during the battle.
Okay. Skip, what are your ratings?
Well, I'm going to kind of agree with everybody when it comes to the mechanics of the army. There is a lot to choose from. There are different varieties of things that you can pick from. If you want to go knights, you do have the cold ones. If you want to go magic heavy, you've got that selection. If you want to go weird, you've got monsters. And if you want to go all hippie-looking scary chicks, you can go witches. But as far as the mechanics go, the way the army works together and everything, I want to give it a solid 9. It is a really good book when it comes to that. Fluff, not having been, I've heard just bits and pieces of the Kane stuff, so I can't really judge that until I get the book and read it. But as far as what I've read in the Dark Elf hardback, I want to give the Fluff about a 4 to 5. I think that I just don't think that they have the kind of appeal like the High Elves or the Wood Elves or any of the other armies. I think it's very like we said, it was a very Darwin point of view when it comes to the book. So I'm going to give them about a 4 or 5 on that. Fun, 2, because I've gotten 1 victory, I think, with the Dark Elves, and I had to use the Witch Elf brick to do that. So I have not been enjoying playing it. So I'm going to have to give it about a 2 on fun.
So do you feel that it's a matter of that there's a hard learning curve for it, given your sort of inexperience and play style, or is there something about the mechanics of the Dark Elves that you just don't think it's fun?
I think it's a little bit of both. I wanted to go when I designed it. When I first picked up the Dark Elves, I wanted to go more of a nautical feel to it. I wanted to do more Corsairs and Witch Elves. I wanted to do Fleet Master, Lokier, Fellhart, go in that direction. And really, I don't really know if I'm putting together the list wrong, or what, but that's just not working. And I feel like it's kind of forcing me to take some of the other things that I really didn't want to choose, or you choose all the time, to actually be competitive and to maybe pick up a win here and there, and to forward any part of the narrative line that I want to do. Because usually, when I set something up, I'm going to lose, so that the path that I wanted to choose is going to get, stopped. So, that it's just been really hard for me to pick them up. And that's why it's just I'm kind of on them right now.
Okay. So as far as my ratings, I'll jump on the bandwagon. As far as the mechanics ratings, I'm going to give them a solid 9. I wish most of my armies were as flexible as the Dark Elves are. I think William pretty much zeroed in on that. That really seems to be their strong point. And really, I don't know that there's a bad unit anywhere in the army book. I mean, there are obviously a couple of units that you're not going to take just because there are so many better options, but I don't think you can take any unit out of that book and just go, this is terrible. And they obviously benefit from that. As far as the fluff, again, I think the Kane book saved them. My original rating before reading the Kane book was going to be a 2. They just come across as so cartoony evil that I have a hard time taking them seriously. On the plus side, though, the Kane book did go a long way into humanizing them, with the exception of Malekith, who's still borderline cartoony evil. So I think I would upgrade it to a 6 at that point. As far as fun goes, now I am a little, I guess, inexperienced, as the only person I played Dark Elves against was Skip. And I'm not going to mean this to sound like the insult that it's about to sound as Skip, but there hasn't been any challenge from it.
Mm-mm.
And I mean, I don't know if it's the units you're taking or whatnot, but Dark Elves die so easily to everything. There's just, I mean, unless you go Hellebron Blender, and I've seen that happen a couple times, I haven't gone against it, but frankly, it seems to me that if you've got enough chaff, you can just redirect that giant brick of Hellebron death around the field the whole time and never engage it. It just seems like things die too easy. But again, I think that may in part be who I've played with. So, I guess let's go ahead before we get into the questions, since we've unearthed the dirty laundry so far. William, you said you've been playing Dark Elves throughout the entirety of 8th.
Mm.
If you could give Skip some suggestions, some ideas, some thoughts on the Dark Elf army that might help him, what advice would you give to a struggling new Dark Elf?
Well, if I was going Corsair heavy, I would first find out which magic lore would supplement my weaknesses. So I don't know exactly what the rest of your army would be, but that's how I would treat it. First is I would find out what's your weakness. Like, what else are you bringing in a Corsair army normally?
Usually, I will come with. I also like using the cold ones. I really like that unit too. So I use that. I go back and forth between the Executioners and the Blackguard. I can't decide which one I like better. They both have performed below average for me.
Okay. Well, I guess then I would kind of suggest, if I was playing, and I've never played with them, so this is coming from ignorance, but if I were going to play an infantry army that's not heavily armored and not terribly strong, I'd focus on a magic lore that would help them in that regard, which is, unfortunately, it'd be Shadow or Metal. And then if I wanted to stay with like a theme, I'd probably bring force multipliers like a Charybdis and a Hydra, because those seem like very themey for that type of army, and they would help you in combat. They would support your blocks of infantry to help deal that damage. Because what Mittierim says is right. They do die very easily. So you have to either support them or have like witches who are going to get the jump on you and just have a lot of attacks. So if I was going to go with a theme, I would just try to supplement the theme and try to help in that way.
Now, the one thing I have noticed from Skip's play of the Dark Elves is he hasn't made best use of the chaff options that the Dark Elf books have, and so usually when I'm bringing big units into him, he's got nothing but his big units to catch him. What do you think is some of the strongest chaff? Because I know there's a lot of options in the Dark Elf book that he might want to take a look at.
Well, obviously Dark Riders, you'd probably want that. You'd probably want 2 to 3 units of them if you were looking to make a little bit tougher list. If you wanted to stick with the theme and still have the same function, then I would go with Harpies probably, because I imagine they travel with the boats. And I've heard people use before smaller units of Corsairs also to help out with chaff.
And I do use Harpies. I like Harpies. So I do use them. I just probably do not use them the way that they need to be used.
Well, and I personally think you don't use enough of them. Usually when you bring Harpies, you bring them in one unit. Mm-hmm. I think for good chaff, particularly in an army as sort of easily smiteable as the Dark Elves, you need 2, maybe 3 good chaff units to keep the big threats tied up until you can whittle them down with the ridiculous Dark Elf shooting and magic.
And I don't use a lot of the shooting. I use the Dark Shards every now and then, but I've just found, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not using them right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're definitely going block against block, then yeah, you probably do need to chaff people up. And I do think you need what I call a force multiplier, which is like a monster or a chariot that will help them out and get those combat wins.
So do you like the Cold One chariots, William?
Oh, I use them, yeah. I like how they look, so I put them in there, and then they just work well for what I need them to. I like them because they also create kind of like a standoff, a bubble, where other people's chaff are afraid to go, and I can send my chariots into their chaff and easily wipe them out, or at least get them to flee away without committing a block of troops to do the same thing.
Definitely a good way of thinking about it. So definitely seems like there's a lot of options in the Dark Elf book. So I would my thoughts, Skip, keep plugging away at it. You'll find you'll find some combination.
This might hit another subject, but the only thing I think that sucks in the Dark Elf book is the Medusa, the Bloodwrack Medusa on its own. I think that's just horrible.
Oh, why is it that? Because we've played. Yeah, we've seen them played, and they haven't done too bad. What about them puts them in the suck category?
Well, they're frenzy and their leadership 2, and their toughness 4, and they have 3 attacks, and they're 90 points. I just feel like that's very expensive for something that's just not that great.
See, I didn't realize.
But again, I've never used them. Yeah.
Yeah, they did okay. Yeah, they did okay the one time Skip used them, but I don't think they did 90 points okay. I thought they were like 45, 50 points. Then they wouldn't be bad. All right. So since we're talking about this, let's go ahead and get into the first set of our questions. The first set comes from MC1 Gamer, who is a big fan of the show and seems to be my primary argument buddy on YouTube these days, but always love the Discord MC. His first question is, other than the other elves, what armies do you feel match up well against the Dark Elves?
Well, I think any army can beat any army, first of all, but I guess if I had to pick one that's been my personal bane, it's been Bretonnians and Dwarves. I always find that Bretonnians, they can get the jump on you because of the charges. Yeah, every time I played against Bretonnians, I think I've lost except for once, and I've always lost to Dwarves. I've never beaten Dwarves.
Yeah, that was kind of what I always thought, is that the high armor saves messed with Dark Elves a lot because they don't seem to have a lot of those heavy punch units.
It's that and the shooting. So they can, I'm already a kind of a small army, so the little bit of shooting that hits is pretty devastating when it comes to combat time. So it's that combination of both.
Hmm. All right. Skip, what do you think? What armies have you had particular trouble with? And all of them is not an acceptable answer for this question.
Well, that would have to be my answer, but let me see. I think anything with a high strength and toughness is gonna cause problems. I mean, the most I'm just kind of looking over thinking. I mean, unless you get spells off, you're looking at strength 4, toughness 4 is the highest, and I mean, especially going against ogres, you know, that would probably my toughest opponent would be ogres. If I had to
No
narrow
offense to
one
my
down.
ogre player, that's actually one of my favorite matchups is when I play against ogres because you don't have any armor. I don't think another person's toughness, another opponent's army's toughness, is as much of a factor as another person's armor save for a dark elf.
I I agree. I would be very nervous taking those against Dark Elves. Because, I mean, I'm going to hit them unless I do a ridiculous amount of damage and impact hits, which is unlikely. I'm going to get just slaughtered in Always Strikes First. Because, I mean, just the rerolls will bowl over will bowl over most ogre armies pretty quick. Unless you can get lucky and just hit with multiple units or catch them on the flank or something like that.
I think I'm just playing it wrong then.
Well, yeah. Like I said, I think I've managed to bring in big enough ogre units into you because you don't have the chaff advantage. That even if you can kill a quarter of them before they get to go, there's still enough of them to put the hurt into the dark elf unit. Okay, so here number 2 question from Mitch is again directed primarily at William. You made mention early that you're not really a competitive, like, tourney style player. So he wants to know, how do you play your Dark Elves differently from the way you observe others playing their armies and lists, thinking more regarding overall strategy than in maybe list building?
Oh, list building. Well, okay. Well, I know for a fact I play differently than most people because I change up my list all the time. I try to mix it up as much as I can. Even if I use units over again, I usually pick them at different sizes as much as I can, just to get an experience from it. But overall, I don't know. I usually try to play with more of a synergy in mind. Like if I were to just imagine what a competitive Dark Elf list is, I imagine it always to be the giant block of witches and the giant block of executioners with the boost up frenzy effects that they can put in them. And that's just kind of like a walking wall of death. And to me, that's not really a strategy in a complex sense. It's just kind of like a push forward, and everything that hits it is dying. And the only way you can beat me, maybe, is to hit me in the flank, and hopefully Hellbrand whiffs. And then the other way I think of a competitive list is people who might bring like lots of cav, like lots of fast cav, the warlocks, and they're kind of like evasive, and they're shooting you and magicking you, and so I don't play that, and so I try to bring kind of a combined arms list because that's just how I play. I like to play games where I want to win, but I would rather win by 101 points than table my opponent.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely think that there's something about the Dark Elves in very similar vein to the Warriors of Chaos, where it's very easy to fall into that rut of push forward and win.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very, I like it when I watch a battle report with the Dark Elves and it's got something other than the giant block of witches and the blood cauldron and all of that. So I definitely have enjoyed watching all of your stuff.
I probably sound like a self-hating Dark Elf player.
Well, that makes it perfect, right? I mean, you're rolling the dice and cutting yourself at the side of the table. And so number 3 question from, and actually before we get to number 3, I actually want to deal with a comment real quick. James Valdez has commented, I don't know if you guys have watched Lord Tremendous's latest video, but he talks a little bit about this, and I do want to kind of make this aware of in the community right now. James Valdez is one of us. He's a war gamer. He's commented on our several times, and is part of the community. And he and his family have recently had a tragedy. They just lost their baby.
Oh.
And it was a premature birth, and right now, because they had just purchased a home for their new growing family, the hospital bills and the funeral arrangements and whatnot are really hurting them. So there's a website where they're accepting donations. I donated myself, $1, whatever helps. I made a small donation today. I definitely recommend folks go to it. If you go to Lord Tremendous's last video, he has a link in the comments. After this post, I'll go and put the link there. But definitely just wanted to say to you, because he made a comment thanking me for my donation here. So if you're still watching, our thoughts, prayers, and everything go with you, buddy. I know it's a rough time, but just keep your chin up, and anybody who is watching this that wants to go donate to help them cover the funeral costs, definitely go do so. It's definitely a worthy cause, and I wanted to take a moment to respond to him since he just commented to us. So sorry for that derailing, guys, and to bring the total bummer here to the show. But I felt that was important enough to take a moment out. So getting back to the questions that Mitch brought us. Mitch apparently used to play Dark Elves 20 years ago, before he took a break from the hobby. And he said back then the Dark Elves had a different feel. Particularly, the Hydras were far more scary than they are now. Today's Hydra seems more like a chariot than a regular monster, and he thinks it plays better if you use it as such. What are your thoughts on the Hydra, its power, and its use on the battlefield?
I think it's exactly the way he describes it. He calls it a chariot. I term just the force multiplier. But yeah, basically the same thing. Beforehand, it was like just a suicidal battering ram that may not have died. So, I mean, I felt like it was pretty broken back then. But I still used one. I didn't use two, but I still used one because it was really, really effective.
Mm-hmm. From what I've seen of the Hydra, they don't really impress me like a lot of the other monsters do. And given my love of monsters in this game, that's saying something. But I could definitely see thinking of them more like a chariot would probably get you a little farther.
I mean, I think it has like 9 attacks, depending on what its wound count is at the time for combat. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad piece. I don't remember, Skip. Have you ever played with it? I know you've played with the Charybdis a couple times.
Never did the Hydra. I did try the Charybdis, but it usually gets blown off the board before I could get it into combat. Michael.
My bad. The dwarves.
It's the dwarves. He sees anything bigger than it, and he shoots them with a cannon. So
that's standardized strategy right there.
Right. So, question 4 from Mitch. He says he doesn't see as much use of assassins as he remembers back in the day. Why don't you see more assassins in lists today?
I think I've heard a lot of people say because they're too expensive, and they're probably right. I think the other thing that kind of hurts them now is ever since that ruling where characters count as monstrous beasts if they're on a monstrous mount, that even kind of narrowed the window that they were effective in. And if ninth is if what we're seeing now is a reflection of ninth, we probably won't see them much more because I think they're most effective when they have the killing blow attribute put on them. Mm-hmm. And if everything's going to start running monsters or monstrous cav, then the assassin kind of loses its role. Because I use them still, and I just love getting him into combat with an infantry or cavalry-based general and killing them. And that's always fun, and he usually dies right back, but who cares? It's always fun to see that happen.
I like assassin-type characters. I wish more armies had them. I think it's just cool to just be like, oh, you're attacking this normal unit of nothing. Oh, here comes an assassin, and you're dead. I mean, hell, even the orcs and goblins have them in the goblin sneaks. I mean, I want an ogre assassin or a noblar assassin. Something. Give me some love. somebody. And I think we've touched number 5 too, but other than we were talking about the Medusa, and the assassins, what units do you think are too costly for their effectiveness?
The Medusa.
Right.
Other than that, I mean, I personally think the book is so well written that you could really bring anything you want as long as you kind of support it nicely. So I think Dark Elves is just one of those few books that's just was done perfectly. I know that some people don't like the Scourge Runner Chariot. I've never used it, but since it's still a chariot, I feel like it'll still function the way you would use a chariot.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe the Cold One Knights are a little expensive, but I don't think so. Maybe they're a little expensive if your idea of using the Cold One Knights is to slam them into infantry. Yeah, then they're a little too expensive because they don't have enough offensive power. But if you're going to match your cav against anybody else's cav or a monster, I think they're pretty well worth it. So, I mean, I wouldn't complain if they were cheaper, but I don't think they're overcosted.
Right. Well, I think, too, whenever you have a unit that kind of goes against the grain of the benefits of a particular army, you're going to pay more for that. And I think the Dark Elves, for the most part, are easy to kill, low armor save kind of guys. So you're getting that heavy armor. You're going to pay a little bit more for that. That's just kind of my thought on it. So that was all the questions from Mitch. Thanks, Mitch. Next questions come from Philomas. A couple of them look like they're talking about campaign stuff in specific in the Dark Elves, so I'm going to set those aside if we still have some time at the end. But there is one general question he asked that I kind of want to throw out there. So we've seen, as far as the end times go, we've seen the undead armies join together, we've seen the chaos armies join together, and now we've seen the elf armies join together. If each of us were to make an alliance, like if we were to make the next alliance book and join together a couple of armies, what would they be and why?
Is that strictly speaking Dark Elves, or?
No, just like I said, this was he kind of asked a general question. This is just kind of a play with your brain. If you were to make the next End Times book, what armies would you join together into a cohesive team force?
Tomb King's Beastmen.
Way to pick two armies that already have End Times books. Wait, and actually, let me ask you something real quick, Skip. How well did that Tomb King's Beastmen team work out for you last night?
Well,
we did so bad. We did so bad.
The Skullapult did great.
Yeah, Skullapult did good.
That's one unit out of two 1,500-point armies that did good, man. Come on.
Zola actually made it into combat. I'm pretty proud of him.
Against Chaff.
Hey.
Lose my two
He
friends.
made it there.
Right. So what do you think, William? If you had to join two armies together for the next End Times book?
I mean, I don't know. I don't like combining armies. I mean, I don't care if other people do it, and I'll still play them. But I don't. I mean, I like the separation. So.
You don't like it?
No. I mean, I think it's fine. I mean, I'm not against it. It's just not something I would be proactive about.
Mm-hmm. I tell you, the one that I actually want to see is I want to see them join ogres and chaos dwarves, because it makes sense to the fluff. The ogres and the chaos dwarves already have a business arrangement where they're trading for canon stuff, and it would be an easy way for GW to sort of bring the chaos dwarves back into the game and kind of re-legitimize them from where they are right now as being kind of considered the redheaded stepchild of Forge World. Not to mention the idea of ogres riding the death train of Chaos Dwarf war machines is just an amazingly cool idea.
I didn't know Chaos Dwarves and Ogres were working together.
They do. That's actually where the Leadbelchers for the most part, come from now. Used to be the ogres would just steal Empire cannons and stuff, but it mentions specifically now that they get most of them from trading slaves and stuff to the Chaos Dwarves. Which I thought would be kind of cool to do, like some conversions to make the Lead Belchers look like they have big versions of the Chaos Dwarf blunderbusses. But that would be more green stuff skill than I possess. So. All right, well, sorry, Philomus. I guess that's the only thing we've come up with. So we'll go ahead and jump to the next set of questions that are coming from Vince Venturella, our number one fan. Vince has been doing. If you guys haven't been watching Vince's recent videos, he's really been approaching all of these sort of talking points that the community has been going on from a very unique and well-educated perspective. So I definitely recommend going and checking him out. His channel is top-notch stuff. He hasn't done any battle reports yet, but it's good discussions.
He only has 21 subscribers. I think he should have 1,000. He does a good job of putting forth his arguments.
Hell yeah. Okay, everybody who watches this, go over Vince Venturella. I'll put his link down. Subscribe to him. I want him to have 100 subscribers by the end of the month. Let's do it. Okay, everybody, get proactive. Go subscribe. I'm already subscribed, so I can't really help.
I am too. So.
Me too.
Awesome. Well, Michael, get your lazy butt over there and subscribe to him. Question is that the Dark Elves are arguably the most powerful army in the game, yet it is also easy to build a very bad list. What is the worst list that you've built with them, and what made it terrible?
Well, I think I saw his questions before I came on. I was thinking that against the dwarves I lost pretty badly. I got wiped out to a man, and I brought, I think, 20 dark shards, some shades. I think it was a 1,500 point game. I attempted to outshoot dwarves, which is not a good winning strategy. So I guess that's the worst I've ever made, and that's where I would end it. Try to outshoot dwarves, it's not going to work.
Yeah, that's not your best tactical decision there. What about you, Skip? If you had to list one of your terrible lists as the worst you've ever done, what would it be?
It would have to be that scenario of on the beach where, invasion, where I could have taken a bunch of core and has kept keeping them coming back, and I don't think I took a lot of core that time. I think
you took minimum core on that list.
I took minimum core on the list because I completely spaced out that you would continuously get core back. So I would say that was been my worst tactical decision and worst list ever.
I do also have to say that the tactics of letting your Charybdis chase my giant around the tower was really funny until the giant turned around and punked him in the head.
Yeah, but I don't like Chew. I'm sorry.
See, that's how I win with my giant, is somehow he's endeared himself to the other two, so they don't want to kill him when I put him on the board, so he accomplishes way more than he really ever should. Pretty much all trashed the Dark Elf fluff. And so his question is, what is our least favorite element of the Dark Elf fluff?
I know what it is for me. You know what it is? It just came to me. If you look at all the other armies, they have fluff, and it's always about the race, right? When it comes to the Dark Elves, they have a personality-based fluff, which is Malekith, and everything kind of revolves around Malekith, which makes sense because they all started because of Malekith's failure. But it doesn't I feel like I don't know a lot about Dark Elves. I know a lot about Malekith and his mom, and I think that's the worst thing about the Dark Elf fluff.
I'll agree to that. I think for me the worst thing about the Dark Elves fluff is how unbelievable their society is. I mean, you're talking about just taking a bunch of, like, angry sadists who feel no compunction not to murder anybody, torturously murder anybody they come across, and you put them all on in a freaking country together. You need to explain to me how the hell that works. Why didn't all of the Dark Elves die out in like 2 generations? And without even any sort of understanding about how their whole society works, I can't buy into any of it, and it just seems like I see all Dark Elves like twirling big evil mustaches and it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, their evil goes all the way down to the family level, so I don't even know how they raise children. Like, how that doesn't make sense to me either. Like, I feel like they kill off their sons because they don't want to be usurped in the future.
Yeah, how does that work? It just, yeah. I don't know. And I can't think of a single Dark female caring enough to actually rear a child. Unless their kids, like, come out of the womb with dual weapon wielding with poison on them. I mean, ready to defend themselves. There's just nothing else.
You know, I'm sitting here as we're talking, looking through the Dark Elf book. I think in every page, Malekith is mentioned at least 3 times. I mean, just kind of looking at every page. I'm just looking for the name Malekith, and it's there. Everywhere.
And it wouldn't be so bad if Malekith himself wasn't pretty flat and uninteresting as a character.
Yeah.
I'm evil. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I'm so
okay.
evil.
So let's actually take a break and skip. Let me warn everyone who's watching, spoilers from Kane. So Skip, if you want to turn your mic off for this one.
I'm good.
Okay, so we've discussed that we just don't understand why the whole thing is based on Malekith and his evil. What's your take on what it was revealed in Kane that Malekith actually was the chosen of Ashurian, and rather than being evil and being rejected, he was just too weak to take the fire, and so all of the other Phoenix Kings through history are usurping dicks. What's your take on that?
I mean, it worked, I guess, but I feel like, I don't know, it worked, but why? It was like the god itself was like, I want you to learn, right, to become a better Phoenix King. Like, that's why he was the second test was him just to be at Nagaroth and finally get over his weakness or something like that. Yeah. So you're going to condemn an entire race for this one guy and have so many people die. I mean, it's fantasy, so I just let things slide all the time, but I don't know. And he has so much bitterness and hatred in him. I don't see why he's just not genocidal on the High Elves. Like, why does he want to rule them? Why does he just, if he hates them so much, why not just wipe them all out? I don't get it.
Well, I think it's a greed thing. I don't necessarily think it's a hatred thing with him anymore. I think it's a greed thing. He looks at the High Elves as being his property. He is their rightful king. He is going to own them. And so it becomes a fixation with owning them. Now, Games Workshop had the balls to proceed with this normally. You're going to get the future being Malekith having the High Elves and then realizing he doesn't fucking want them. And then you get to that genocidal thing where he just starts killing them off for shits.
Yes, it sounds like you want your property, but you're going to burn it down to get it back. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Right. And the one thing that occurred to me is that the Dark Elves, the Elves in general, don't have one decent god amongst them. Like, they're all just horrible fucking people.
Yeah.
I mean, if Assyrian, who's supposed to be the best amongst them, their greatest god, is willing to literally condemn every Dark Elf just to teach Malekith a lesson. I mean, and obviously Lilith, the one who's sort of the star of the Kane book, is just a manipulative, murderous bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
well, okay,
maybe
so
I guess maybe Vol. What?
This is all. I was just thinking, isn't the storyline kind of saying, putting forth the idea that this is all a cyclical reincarnation of events that the gods went to war at some point, chaos has been fighting them, they lose in the end, but they go to a different area, a different dimension, and create it all over again, and this is just the echoes of that over and over and over again? Because weren't you saying they were setting something up for next time about going to a different world?
Yeah, they are, but the trick is the whole thing that Lilith does is she basically murders all the gods so it breaks the cycle. So she's basically setting up for the new world to kind of go forth from this, but without all of the murderous evil prick elf gods.
But if okay, so
Because,
but if that's the case, then it has been cycling, and we can assume it's maybe done it more than once. And so maybe the gods were just elves in the beginning, and so maybe they're not very godlike in the sense that we think of them, but maybe they're just the first elves that had ever existed, and they've been living
Eh,
this cycle for infinite time in the past.
that's not a terrible idea.
yeah.
Mm.
Huh.
Because she's
That's
making the gods again, right? That she's just bestowing the power onto new elves who are going to
yeah,
relive
and
the cycle.
so they're gonna
Well,
yeah they're gonna do the same exact thing.
maybe that's an interesting read on it. That gives me more to think about than, huh?
Yeah. I
That's not a terrible idea.
bravo,
Also,
William.
Also, I have another question, and I don't know if anybody can answer this. Explain to me why Ulthuan had the weakness of every evil guy's stronghold of every fantasy ever. In that you take away the magic power and it sinks beneath the ocean and destroys the whole damn island.
Who fucking knows? Games
The
Workshop is doing stuff.
they watch Kroll in the '80s. I don't know.
But it just seems so weird and random to me. I was like, really? I don't know.
You know, my favorite
Also,
thing about that book, though, is they introduce those characters and they touch on storylines that you may have seen a little bit of a blurb somewhere in a book a long time ago. It kind of amazes me that they have a staff that seems just combed through all the little stuff that they've ever written and were let's tie a lot of this together. And I was impressed by that, at least. I thought that was really cool.
oh, I absolutely agree. That was one of my favorite parts. I think this and Nagash, the Nagash book, both did very well in kind of tying a bunch of stuff together and made it feel like it was an actual story going on within a world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think ultimately that was the biggest weakness of Glotkin, is that Glotkin, to me, felt very disconnected, might be the best word I can think of. It just seemed like just a random story that really didn't have much impact on the world. So
I'm just tired of the Empire getting their butt kicked. I want them to. I don't want them to just barely win. I want them to just deliver a crushing blow to the enemy one time.
well, Shazam's going to lead them to victory. I mean, that's just.
Well, hopefully.
It's all right.
Hopefully
I'm waiting for the Lord of Fire to land in the Elder Firebelly and have him lead the ogres to the Empire and just team up and whip ass, because that would be awesome.
Yeah,
You'd
I'll
have
tell you.
the Human Torch and Shazam taking on Chaos. That would be great. That would beat all my fan fictions.
Did you read my comment? I think Teclis is still alive.
I hope not.
I think he is.
I agree with you. He probably is. Everything horrible he's done, he needs to die. He deserves his death. He needs somebody to end him. I might take off a whole mess of sins from Malekith if he just ends Teclis the next time they're together. Just rips him in half. Like a freaking phone book.
Still can't forgive him.
Still can't forgive Malekith?
No, and I'll tell you what makes less sense is knowing that everybody's going to support him into being the new Phoenix King. The fact that when he originally was there, he murdered like half of the noble princes that could also vie for the throne. So he basically just went, "Oh, your leaders, I'm gonna kill them all," and then everybody goes, "Oh, we'll forgive you." Who does that?
Klingons.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know. I
the
gotta say though, I really want to know what the hell all the Dryads are doing, forming their own army in Athel Loren. I'm wondering if they're gonna come and kick Malekith's ass.
The trees are sick of the shit.
It'd be kind of cool if they made a. It'd be kind of cool if they made a split-off tree spirit army that was actually decent by itself in combat.
Right.
They kill off Bretonian and they bring that.
Oh, don't.
Well, no. What happens is there's no more knights left, so they start just building them out of wood. Like, and so you have the wood knights of Yeah, so that was actually the most bullshit. Is not only did you reveal the Bretonians' god was written off the top, you depot god that can give them powers anymore, so no more Grail Knights can be made. But then, because Malekith doesn't want the Dark Elves killing the Elves, he's just like, well, go fuck up those humans in Bretonia. Nobody cares about them. It's like, who from Bretonia just pissed in the coffee at GW because somebody made those folks super angry for all the shit they put them through. Right.
They'll probably just reincarnate. Like, they'll probably have some new character taking her power, just like the other gods.
Yeah. Well, I think like because they brought Shalia back. I think if Shalia took over the being the Lady of the Lake, that wouldn't be too terrible. Yeah. She'd get more respect there than she does in the Empire. So the second part of this question, I know we kind of went off on a tangent a little bit. Does anyone have a favorite element of the Dark Elves fluff?
The elf gods are dead. The dwarf gods outnumber the elf gods. That is my favorite part.
Who's that? I know that most people like Malice Darkblade's fluff. I've never read any of those books though.
Yeah.
I'm sure if the Dark Elf players are watching this and they're going to be screaming about Malice Darkblade because I know a lot of people like him. So.
Yeah. I know he seemed kind of just like a prick in I had not read anything about him until the Kane book, and he just seemed kind of like a jackass in the Kane book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like. I like Marathi. I wish. I like her. I think she would have been a better main bad guy than Malekith has been. So. Because she's more, instead of being like emo, she's more tragic and, I don't know, just a little bit more manipulative.
Yeah. I definitely like how they tie in her obsession with joining Tyrion as her being like lovelorn from Anarion. Like, I thought that was, like, it was the one Dark Elf character that I really felt they gave some emotional connection to. And so I'll agree with you on that one, William. I think Marathi is probably
I liked
probably
her
my only favorite.
I liked her last scene in the book too. I was like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah. Okay, so next question is, what is everyone's favorite model from the Dark Elves? And what is their least favorite? And he says, by the way, if everyone picks the Witch Elves or the Ho-Ride Cauldron for favorite, he demands the second pick.
Well, my favorite's what made me start Dark Elves, and that's the old-style Executioners. They look kind of like samurais, and I thought that looked really neat. And then, of course, the Assassins also one of my favorite. Yeah. And then one of my least favorite is definitely Malekith's model. I wish they would have at least redone that for this release.
Yeah, his model is terrible.
Yeah, I'll actually agree with you. The Assassin model probably has more action in it than any model except for maybe that new Dwarf Slayer they brought out. And I love that. That model looks awesome.
Well, I think they have like 6 different versions of the Assassin, like since I've been playing, and they all look great.
And it's pretty sad that no one plays them.
Well, no one plays the Slayers either, so.
Hey,
Least favorite. I would probably say the least favorite is the repeater bolt throwers.
Hmm.
They look weird and unwieldy, and I can't imagine somebody's making like giant clips of ballista bolts to like load into the thing, and I don't know. It really puts me off. All of their other stuff looks so elegant and deadly, and that just looks kind of clunky.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'd have to say that my favorite mini is my favorite character is Look Here, Philhart. I like that mini. Of course, it has a very Cthulhu-ish look to him. That's why I like him, and he's actually my favorite character as part of the Dark Elves. I'd have to say my least favorite. I think like the Dread Spears and the Blackguard and all that, they all kind of look alike. I don't know. They just don't have the pop that I think that they should have. I think it's just very generic.
Hmm.
Okay, Michael?
Yeah, worst is gonna be the Malekith model. That model is terrible. They need an update on that. Favorite? I really like the Cold One Night models.
Oh yeah.
Really like the Cold One Night models. Dark Elves on dinosaurs.
Yeah. I tell you, I didn't think of them too much. I didn't think too much of them until my wife Alicia did the commission for Nicholas Belair, and I got to see her work up close on that. Nicely painted. Those are amazing looking freaking models.
Yeah.
And she really changed my opinion on those. Okay. William has abandoned us for a bio break, so I guess we'll chat amongst ourselves. Actually, let's go back to Philomus's questions because they're kind of about our campaign. While he's gone, we can talk about those. So, Philomus's second question. In our campaign, if one of our armies could negate one unit type of any of the enemy armies we face, which one would it be, and how would we go about making the story where we destroy that unit type?
Oh, I can answer it. At least
Go for it.
Hex Race. What I'd like to do is get the giant vacuum from Spaceballs and turn it on, suck mode, and just suck those ethereal bastards up into the cosmos.
You're gonna say that until you gear up your Undead Legion's army and you start playing with the fuckers.
Yeah, probably. But right now, that's what I think.
That's awesome.
Oh, Jesus, Skip. Jesus. I would have to say if one of my units negate somebody else's, yeah, I pretty much need to send my I need to send my Noblars into the Dwarven Holds to steal every goddamn stubborn banner that they own. Just every one of them. We're going to turn them into toilet paper for my tyrant and be done with freaking stubborn leadership 10 on everything, including your freaking war machines.
Now, you know that you can't do that because all of our banners look exactly the same.
Well, then I'll just steal them all. Dwarves don't get banners anymore. I'll give you your freaking bear cavalry if you get rid of every freaking banner you have.
Okay. I'm okay with that. That's a fair trade. I'll take bear cav.
All right. So William is back with us, so we'll switch gears again. So I know you said earlier, this is a question that I actually have, William. I know you said you don't like the idea of combining the armies. It's not something you see yourself doing. But given how you normally play with your army, if you were to kind of pick a unit or two out of the other two army books to add to your army, what do you think the High Elves and the Wood Elves have the most to offer to you? What units would you be interested in actually bringing over?
Well, I mean, even though I don't prefer it, I'm still doing it. Like I'm doing a Chaos Legion armies. But I mean, if you put me in charge of Games Workshop, I would never even have done that. But if I had to pick one unit, I've already decided on this when I was reading the book last night. I'd pick White Lions because of that one battle with Helbron. So if Helbron wasn't so ridiculous, I'd even bring her in other games against my opponents and stuff. But she's really ridiculous. So I mean, she'll die really easily, but there's you just create a unit that whatever goes into it's going to die.
Yeah, we have a standing rule at our house that if Hellebrand shows up on the table, it's perfectly okay to flip the table. So,
I mean, my opponent would have to bring an equally as powerful character for me to bring Hellebrand. I brought her once, and I think it was for a massive battle, and I think my opponent brought something pretty nasty himself.
Okay, so that's interesting. What do you consider an equally busted character? I mean, are we talking level of Carl Franz Ascended, or?
Well, if I brought Hellebrand, I mean, anything would go in my mind. Because, I mean, I feel like there's a couple of... There's stuff you would bring to play, a fun game against your friends. And then there's a game that you'll play a different type of fun game against your friends that you guys all agree to do. And so you have the same expectations and you do it. So if I'm going to bring Hellebrand, then whatever my opponent wants to bring, they can bring too. But, I wouldn't want to bring Hellebrand and my opponent doesn't know that I'm going to bring Hellebrand. They bring their standard army. And then it's what are they going to do?
Punch you.
Flanking. Yeah.
No. You bring
but good luck. I have lots of fast cab too.
Right. So we have a comment from Skaven NAZ, and he requests, can we just have William admit that he likes my way of thinking on the end times on air?
Yeah, I do. I agree with everything he says. I think he has the most reasonable approach to it. And his opinions on magic are probably the way it's going to go. Maybe. Sometimes I feel like the magic's pretty much going to be dead in night if that's how it's going to work. Mm-hmm. I think it's completely unreliable.
Yeah, I very much agree. I've been enjoying your thoughts on the end times as well, Skaven and AZ. So there, you get a double bump for your ego there. So let's see. We got Dark CT has written us a small novel. Let me pick out anything that might be a question. Yeah. So he pretty much agrees with everything we said, as he always does. I don't think there's any actual questions in there. So to kind of go back to the original question, so you definitely think the White Lions would be something interesting fluff-wise. So if you had to pick one out of the Wood Elves, what do you think the Wood Elves offer best to the forces of the Dark Elves?
Oh, I actually haven't looked at the Wood Elves a lot, so I don't know much about it. As far as style-wise concerned, I would really like to use their sniper character. That's like a bowman era. I don't know a lot about him, but the archer character with the Weight Watchers, I think that's what they are. I wouldn't mind using them. So it'd be kind of cool to have them, the Shades, the Dark Riders, and the High Elves versions. Just have a whole army of scouting elves and stuff like that. That'd be pretty neat.
So yeah, if it weren't for the fact that your assassin can't be your general, you do a core of nothing but the ambushing Wood Elves, and then Shades and everything. So you've got nothing. Your whole opponent has to deploy everything except for your Lord, who's your general, because you can't. And then he deploys, and then all of a sudden scouts and ambushers just swarm the field.
Oh, I could put a character on a Dark Rider, and they'll have Vanguard. So my whole deployment could be unpredictable.
Yeah. Well, the problem is you wouldn't want the Dark Riders. You would want the Wood Elf cav because they're actually ambushers.
Oh.
So you don't even have to put them on the field until the second turn.
Oh. Yeah, that would be cool.
Actually, I think you can do that. What?
It probably would suck. You probably wouldn't get any. You wouldn't be able to kill anybody's units. They bring lots of infantry. You just have to run around.
Probably not. I tell you though, I think, and I told this to the guys, I think Kane succeeded, and at least for me, somebody who had never given two thoughts about putting together an elf army, it really made me want to build an elf army.
Yeah.
I won't, because my wife will kill me if I start up a sixth army. But I think it would be awesome to do a mostly wood elf army. but take just enough like infantry units from high elves and dark elves to actually be able to participate in combat.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Because I think that. What?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, you go ahead. Yep.
Okay. I'd like to create maybe a sisters theme army. Take all the sister units from each of the books and do something like that. I think that would be interesting to do.
Well, what you're saying is you want to use the Sisters of Avalon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, other than the witch elves, are any of the other ones core?
No, I don't think so.
So you basically just have to do.
I'd have to, yeah.
You just have to do like witch elves as your entire core.
Yeah, but not throw the cauldron there.
What doesn't matter, dude? 625 points of witch elves is gonna be bad.
Yeah, you know what? I just don't. The thing I don't like about I buy the story now as far as like why they would work together, but as far as like mechanics are concerned, why I don't like this combinedness is because the elves, they have so many units that are alike, but there's clearly going to be one that's better than the other ones that you're going to pretty much regulate some of these units to being nothing. If everybody's going to be okay with bringing the elf combined host, there's going to be some units that will never be seen again. Like if you think about each of the books, 3 great weapon wielding elves, you have the executioners, you have the white lions, and then you have the wildwood rangers, I think they're called.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously one of those 3 are going to win out, and it's not going to be the wildwood rangers, and nobody will ever bring anything else except for the best one of those. And then the same thing with the spearmen. If you bring spearmen like I do, I'm pretty sure you're going to bring dark elf spearmen over the other 2. So, I mean, I feel like you're just killing. So I don't know if they're going to. I don't know. I hope they don't bring that into 9th. They can. I wouldn't care. I'll adjust. But I don't think it makes a lot of sense to do that unless you're going to make all their rules very different.
Well, I wonder how, because I know ideally the whole reason they're doing this is to drive sales for Games Workshop. So I wonder how well that will accomplish that when what you're talking about happens, where they see like a spike in sales of White Lions, but then Wildwood Rangers and Executioners just stop being sold.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they should do it though, because the natural tendency for us as human beings to do things is to do like a cost-benefit analysis against them. And when you do that, there's going to be winners, there's going to be losers, and the only people who won't take that option are going to be people who self-regulate. Like I would self-regulate, but that's me putting myself in a box because I choose to. So. Yeah.
Hey man, we totally understand. I'm still fielding the freaking slaughter brute, for God's sakes.
Peasants.
Just because. So, oh guys, did I tell you I've decided what I'm going to do for my Mutalith Vortex Beast? I'm going to buy a Jabber Scythe. And that way I can, as long as Chaos Combine works, I can play it as a Jabber Scythe, but it's on the same freaking base, the chariot base of the Mutalith Vortex Beast. So if they take away the Chaos Combined, I can play it as a Mutalith Vortex Beast. I'll be able to get my Jabber Scythe and be happy.
Awesome.
And I am probably the only person ever to have been made happy by the thought I can put a Jabber Scythe in an army. So, if I don't get one for Christmas, I'm going to hope to get one for my birthday in February. So, we'll get some Jabber Scythe action before too much longer. February 25th.
Ah, mine's the 5th.
Ah. But, let's see if we have any other... Okay, so I guess we'll go back. This isn't technically a Dark Elf question, but I'll feel bad if we don't answer Philomus's last question. And you can answer this for your Dark Elves too, since you have dipped your toe in the narrative world a little bit. So this is an acceptable question for you. Now, from a narrative point of view, if you could force any enemy unit to work with your army, which one would it be, and how narratively would you make it happen?
Ogres. I'd pay them. Yeah.
Awesome. Michael, Skip?
Any one unit from another army.
Yep. I know the one I would do. I would actually get the salamanders from the lizard men for my ogres, and basically have the ogres who were working for the lizard men bring some over and start crossbreeding them with saber tusks. So you get big freaking air-breathing saber tusks. Would that not be cool?
I shudder at your idea of the breeding process between those two.
Yeah,
Well,
I think some
they're
animal rights activists won't be too happy about that in the Warhammer world.
Well, come on, you know they're ogres. They'll just tie them together and play the ogre equivalent of Barry White and see what happens. So, worst case scenario, they'll be eating plenty of roasted saber tusk until they make it work right. So, what about you, fellas?
I would love to, if Bretonia still lives, I would love to actually have them have a lord that you could put on like a gold dragon or a silver dragon or something like that. Just give them a big mount or a big monster.
Breton's dragon?
So you're gonna go steal the elves' dragons?
Yeah, I'm gonna steal the elves' dragons.
Huh.
That's rude.
Well, who knows? Maybe it's that the Bretonians find out that they've been worshiping an elf all this time, and they're just like, "Come on, you owe us dragons." It's not like they didn't. It's not like in Kane they didn't get like a ship full of dragon eggs back from the Dark Elves. Just send that shit up the coast to Bretonia.
Just wrong. Just wrong.
Hey, if she was an elf the whole time, how come she didn't give any of the elves the 5+ ward save?
Yeah. That's messed up.
That is a good question. Maybe because the elves were too fast to stop and pray for her.
Oh.
And you know, being an elf god, I bet it was like on a bet. She was probably talking to one of the other elf gods and be like, "Hey, I bet I can make these stupid humans give up the initiative in any combat they ever fight."
You win me, sir.
What, did I cut you to the quick?
Yeah.
So what do you got, Michael? What unit would you steal, or would you get to work with your army, and how would you pull it off?
I would probably go take the mages from the High Elves to work with the dwarves. To pull it off, I don't know, because dwarves are kind of assholes anyway, or elves are kind of assholes anyways. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
We'll enslave them, that's what we'll do. We'll beat them in submission with our anti-magic.
Right.
Hey, with the new end of times magic and the new magic rules and everything, we actually made the Anvil of Doom kind of credible.
You broke up real bad, Skip. What did you say was credible?
With the new magic system, if you're going to use it, it would actually make the Anvil of Doom usable.
Yeah.
It depends. Again, I think it depends on how you determine what counts as a failed spell or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Because, I mean, the way we were playing it is if it's dispelled, then that counts as the spell not being cast successfully.
Yeah.
So that limits it. But, I mean, if you play it that the only way to fail casting a spell is to not roll the number, then absolutely.
Yeah,
Are you guys going to play it that way from now on? Is that like the thing now? Are you adopting it full force, or?
Well, we're going a little half-ass on it. Right now, we are sticking with the old magic for our narrative games because it frankly feels a little more under control. But until we make a firm decision on it one way or another, all of our non-narrative games that we play are gonna use the heavy magic or the new magic, and just to kind of get a feel for it. Because we played 2 games with it. One was a narrative game we played with it last night, which was the team battle. Skip and Michael took Tomb Kings and Beastmen against me playing Vampire Counts and Empire. And it ended up going really messy because I managed to kill their mages early on. And then it was like my level 4 Light Mage and my level 1 Vampire Lord was just buffing the shit out of everything because I'm just using low-level buffs and magic missiles.
Hmm.
And so it was like, you don't have to get too many more dice than your Dispeller if you've got a +4 up on them.
My opponent last night, he brought the Trickster Shard, and that actually was way more threatening this time around than normally. Because usually, nobody's ever brought that against me. But I thought if anybody ever tried to use the Trickster Shard, if I didn't need a magic phase, I would just skip it because who cares? But in this time around, like we ended up probably casting maybe 8 to 10 spells a turn. That's a lot of times for me to roll a dice to see if I get wounded on a 5-up. So I thought that was an interesting thing. But that's not something I expect to see a lot. But I thought that was an interesting way to finally bring that item and make it semi-effective.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're just in general. There's a lot of stuff that it impacts strangely. I mean, in my opinion, the Wizarding Hat is now a good magic item.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, let me go ahead and get Lore Master in a random lore. I mean, any way I roll it, that's going to be freaking good.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I've played it. I have a couple more games lined up that we're going to use it, but I'm not a big fan of it, so I'm not going to force anybody to play it. And unless my opponent insists, I probably won't bring it up.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to play it.
Yeah. So is it just me, and you read this too in the book, or is their whole like last point on when you should use those rules just incredibly snarky? Just like when one of you wants to play it, fuck the other guy. You use it. It's like, what? Thank you for giving a total group of dumbasses carte blanche to try and force their will on the rest of us. Way to go, Games Workshop. But so, and the other thing that occurred to me, like we were talking about a little earlier, even your medium spells are hardly ever going to go off. I think it's totally unfair for them to have brought out all of these new end time spells that nobody's ever going to be able to cast.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had my notebook with me. I take notes when I have like a little sheet where I keep track of my magic phases. That's how I do them on my little videos. And I don't know. I felt like for the medium spells, you probably need about 3 to 4 dice. And a lot of times, you don't get that. And so, I don't know. It's just not. You can't depend on the medium spell. So if I wanted to get like maybe. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but maybe I have a level 2 and I'm trying to get off glittering scales. That's actually not terribly easy to get off on 2 dice. And then 3 dice, it's not guaranteed, even though your odds are in your favor. I'm not a mathematician, though, so I don't know these things. I just know in experience in that one game I played where we must have cast like 60 spells in 3 turns. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I know
I'm not a mathematician either, but I'll tell you what's really funny is when a Beastman player rolls 4 1s on his Winds of Magic dice.
It was amazing.
What?
4 1s.
What was it? Your second magic phase using the new rules, you threw 4 1s.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Oh, here, watch this. We're doing normal magic.
And then, just so the dice were telling him what a jackass he was, he tries to cast his first spell and can throw up to 6 dice at it. It was funny.
But I definitely think that Skaven AZ, he brought up the point with like the Lore Master of Hoeth and those really, really small spells where you can just throw 2 dice of it. That's really, I feel like, the only way you can run with Magic. But then again, at the same time you say that, since you know that would be the tactic, you could just stop the little spells, and then if he tries to go for a big spell, it's not guaranteed he's going to get enough dice to get it off. So I don't know. Yeah. It's really fickle. I feel like in some games you're going to get creamed. Some games you're just nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
But maybe that's how it's always been.
Let me ask you this, because I couldn't find anywhere in the rules, and now Michael's taking them because we only bought 1 copy for the group. Does it talk about how the hell you're supposed to do, like, the Reign of Chaos table for demons when you're rolling 4 dice?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Pikachu too.
Yeah, I've never actually played against demons. I have the book, and I'm going to start playing them. But that's a good point.
Well, Michael was technically doing a Chaos United army last night because he was using marks and shit on his beastmen, so that triggers the Reign of Chaos table. But we ended up not making him roll on it because we couldn't figure out how the hell to make it work.
Well, I would just roll 2 dice and figure it out. That's how I would reconcile it. But as far as like real rules, I don't know if they don't address that. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Uh,
But, I
Awesomely
mean,
short-sighted
if
GW.
you really want to use it, you could just reconcile it by just throwing 2 dice.
Yeah. Throw 2 dice, then that's what triggers it, and then you can throw the other 2. Yeah. So, well, we've been going for about an hour and 20. Let me check the comments again, see if anybody popped out anything new. Let's see. All right, Vince, I guess, caught up with us. Either that or he's been doing posts the whole time, and YouTube has just told me. So he supports the Chaos Dwarf Ogre Alliance only if it results in the destruction and enslavement of the Chaos Dwarves by the ogres. Apparently, Alaska Warhammer Girl will be sad about your Medusa comment. She did a video where she painted up a pretty good one recently.
Well, they look great.
Oh yeah.
They don't look like they do anything.
Yeah.
But no, I've never used them, so it's probably just my lack of skill there.
I'll tell you, William, they don't do a whole lot against the Gorgon.
Which is kind of damning them with faint praise, isn't it? He also said that soundbite is recorded for all time. He said it. Dwarves are kind of assholes. Mittierim, please make a video that's just a 5-minute loop of that.
You guys know what I meant. The dwarves are not assholes. It's the elves.
You know what, though? That may become my new ringtone for when you call me. Phone rings. Dwarves are kind of assholes. Yes.
Oh.
Apparently, we have also convinced Vince to go subscribe to his own channel.
Nice.
Awesome. He is also surprised that no one called out the unicycle chariots as the worst model.
I like that.
I don't even know what you're talking about, Vince.
Yeah, I've never seen any.
Just talking about the chariots in general, they all have a back wheel. I like it.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I never paid close enough attention to the backside of them.
They just look like sleds with wheels on the back of them. Well, one wheel.
You can make it Santa.
He also says that he thinks the only reasonable interpretation of the rule is that dispelling the spell shuts down the casting of that spell. Says, to me, if you look at the definition of successful casting, it's clear as a bell giving the overview paragraphs in Kane. I agree with you. That's why we were playing it that way. So.
Yeah, I agree with you, too. I see the other argument, that's all. I see the other argument, and I know GW is fickle, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and like it, I agree with you. I think there is another argument there, but for me, the other argument is based on such like a razor sharp reading of the way the rules work that, and I don't think GW writes rules that razor sharp.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. If you have to explain your position, you're probably wrong.
And he also completely agrees on the Malekith vote. And I agree with that. I don't see how the hell they made a new campaign, like this book, that so centers on Malekith, and they didn't think, you know what, maybe we should make a new freaking badass model for him like we got released in everything else that we've done with this end time show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that raises another question. So the elves are the only ones left out in the cold as far as no new models. Any thoughts as to why?
Oh, no. I think
Actually, no. They're insanely better than most armies. They don't need new stuff.
I don't know. I mean, I was really looking forward to this release, thinking that they would have a big giant monster. Like, I wouldn't mind buying Glotkin, but I don't have a Nurgle army. I don't mind buying a Gash. I don't have Undead. So when I found out they were going to do Elves, I was like, all right, now I get to buy a really expensive, overpriced model, but I'll still buy it. And I was excited, but I was let down.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't do a new Carl Fonz model either, so, you know, if you look at it that way.
Yeah. But it's all right. They made up for Shazam with his rules, so. Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting that kit for Christmas too, because I wanted a Griffin to put a general on. I may actually, like, I'm already going to magnetize the general and the wizard and switch them back and forth. I may do up the Karl Franz too and give you guys a little taste of the lightning. What do you think?
If I go mono with my Dwarf Lord, yeah.
Dude, he will chew that Dwarf Lord up and spit him out the other end.
We'll see about it. I have faith in my dwarves.
Have you seen the stats for him? He will chew up a Dwarf Lord and spit him out the other end.
I've seen the stats. He's pretty badass, but my dwarves are they're on their own level.
Yes, the level of delusional love. That is truly an own level.
Faith. It's all faith.
Right. Okay. Well, that is all the comments. We've been going for almost an hour and a half. So, want to go ahead and just, as a reminder, once the video renders on my page, I am going to go ahead and put the links both to Vince Venturella's YouTube page and to the charity for James Valdez. So you guys please go, if you can. I know it's the holidays, it's a rough time for everybody, but contribute whatever you can. I'm sure it would be appreciated with the situation they're in. And I mean, he's one of us. That's what this community is for, is supporting each other, and I definitely think it's a worthwhile cause to support him for. But wanted to end it by saying thank you, William, for coming out and talking to us tonight. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you.
Hey, it was great to be on. This was cool.
Glad to hear it. And I want everybody to tune in next week. On the 10th, we will be joined by Kieran Dunlevy, who will be going over High Elves with us. So we'll kind of get the other side of this this coin then. It'll be the same time, 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday night. So anybody have any last parting words for our guests? Or anybody else?
High Elves suck.
Oh, why? You know what? That's fine. That's fine.
Don't forget your towel.
And dwarves suck too.
Oh, you got that. See, that's rude. That's going over the line. You can insult my elves all night, not
like
my
chicken.
dwarves.
Yep.
Stop killing the
Original tastes like
Reginald!
chicken.
Oh my god, the Reginald has done nothing to you guys. Literally nothing.
I told you, I'm
Just
going to
kill
kill
me.
him once with each army, and then we'll be done. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you all next week. Bye-bye.